Welcome to Simplified UPSC by PPP, where we listen, learn, and grow together. Detailed lecture notes in English and Hindi, plus practice questions for prelims and mains, only on our Telegram channel. Link in description. Like and subscribe for more.
Okay, let's unpack this. Welcome back to the deep dive.
It's good to be here.
If you are preparing for serious competitive examinations, you already know that NCERT Class 12 biology isn't optional. I mean, it's the absolute foundation.
It really is.
So our mission today is a rigorous deep dive into your core source material. We're going to be extracting the most crucial concepts, processes, and applications across human health, biotech, and environmental science.
Right. And we're distilling this knowledge not just so you understand biology, but so you can connect it to its impact on policy and governance.
That's the critical lens we need. For a learner like you, it's all about synthesis.
Exactly. When you understand the mechanism of a disease or, the ecology of a forest, you gain the context to evaluate public health programs, to justify environmental regulations.
And understand the geopolitical implications of scientific innovation. These sources give you the essential vocabulary for that.
For informed citizenship, really.
But before we plunge into the details, a sincere shout out and a huge thank you to all our existing members and subscribers.
Yes, absolutely. Your support truly enables deep dives like this.
It ensures we can dedicate the time and, frankly, the resources to synthesize this kind of high-value content. And if you are finding this material useful for your preparation, please consider subscribing. Maybe join the paid membership on the Simplified UPSC by PPP YouTube channel, if you're capable.
And don't forget to like this audio or video. Share a valuable comment. That community backing, it keeps us going.
It really does. Okay, so let's start where policy meets the individual. Human health and disease.
A huge topic.
It is. And we've moved far beyond outdated ideas of bodily humors. We now see health as a complex interaction between our genetic makeup, our exposure to pathogens,
and our lifestyle choices. A huge factor.
A massive factor. But no matter the threat, the body's defense is primary.
And that defense is immunity. At its simplest, it's just the overall ability of the host to fight off disease-causing organisms.
Right. And we tend to break it down into two types.
We do. There's innate immunity, which is non-specific. It basically attacks anything foreign. And then there's acquired immunity, which is highly specific. It recognizes and targets a single pathogen.
And that acquired immunity system, it relies on something absolutely key.
Memory.
Memory.
Precisely. That immune system property of memory is the entire conceptual bedrock of modern public health.
So vaccination.
Vaccination. When we introduce a vaccine, which is basically a preparation of antigenic proteins or a weakened pathogen, the body mounts a primary response. And crucially, it generates memory B and T cells.
So it's like a training exercise for the immune system.
It is. So if the actual dangerous pathogen shows up years later, those memory cells launch an immediate, massive secondary response. It neutralizes the threat before you even get sick.
It's basically preventative warfare at a cellular level.
That's a great way to put it.
But this really powerful system, it can sometimes misfire. Let's talk about allergies.
Right. This is an exaggerated response to something that's usually harmless.
Like dust mites or pollen. So what's the key mechanism here? What turns a simple substance into a perceived threat?
So the scientific insight revolves around a specific antibody that's produced, the IgE type.
IgE.
Yes. When the body encounters an allergen, it produces these IgE antibodies. And they trigger what are called mast cells to release potent chemicals, mainly histamine and serotonin.
And it's the histamine that causes all the problems.
It's the release of histamine that causes the classic allergy symptoms, the constriction, the inflammation, the runny nose.
And the sources suggest our modern lifestyle might actually be making this worse.
Yeah, by keeping us too clean, It might be reducing our exposure to a wide range of antigens, which in turn increases our sensitivity to these common allergens.
Fascinating. So from overreaction to uncontrolled growth, let's tackle cancer. The core biological failure here is the loss of a key cellular behavior.
Contact inhibition.
Contact inhibition, thank you. Normal cells, they stop dividing when they touch their neighbors. But cancer cells just ignore that signal.
And the real terror of a malignant tumor is its ability to spread, a process we call metastasis.
That's the one. The tumor cells, they gain the ability to detach, get into the bloodstream or the lymph system.
And then establish new tumors at distant sites in the body. The causes, or carcinogens, are pretty varied.
Right. They can be physical, like X-rays and gamma rays.
Which cause DNA damage, or chemical, like the potent agents you find in tobacco smoke,
Or even biological.
or biological, like oncogenic viruses that carry or activate specific genes.
So when we look at treatment, surgery and radiation are standards. Chemotherapy too, though, that comes with those notorious side effects like hair loss. But what's the most exciting policy shift in treatment right now?
It has to be the move toward immunotherapy.
Tell us about that.
Well, instead of just relying on toxins or radiation, we can give patients biological response modifiers like alpha-interferon.
And the policy implication here is massive.
It is, because alpha-interferon doesn't attack the tumor directly. It activates the patient's own immune system, empowering their natural defenses to seek out and destroy the cancerous cells.
It's a total paradigm shift from direct assault to leveraging innate biological power.
It really is.
That's a fascinating application. Before we shift gears completely, we have to address the growing governance challenge of substance abuse.
Yes, a huge societal issue.
We're talking about opioids, cannabinoids, coca alkaloids, mostly derived from flowering plants.
And the societal costs are twofold. You get the immediate effects like recklessness and violence, and then you have the severe long-term biological damage.
What kind of damage are we talking about?
The sources really highlight serious damage to the nervous system and chronic injury to the liver, which often results in cirrhosis. This isn't just a personal failing, it's a huge, huge burden on public health systems.
And a related crisis point is the misuse of these drugs in sports. We often hear about anabolic steroids.
Right. Anabolic steroids are used specifically to increase muscle strength, bulk, and aggression. The governance issue here is really about protecting our youth.
How so?
For adolescents, prolonged use can lead to severe acne and, more importantly, the premature closure of growth centers and long bones. This results in stunted growth, irreversible physical damage.
Which is why enforcement against steroid use is so vital.
Absolutely.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. We're shifting from fighting biological threats to actively shaping and manipulating life itself.
The realm of biotechnology.
And specifically recombinant DNA technology.
The foundational toolkit for this is, it's quite elegant, really. It starts with isolating the DNA.
Okay.
Then you fragment it using what are essentially molecular scissors, the restriction endonucleases. These are enzymes that cut DNA at very specific sequences.
And the final step.
The final critical step is joining that desired DNA fragment into a self-replicating carrier, a cloning vector. Things like a plasmid or bacteriophage.
And the crucial value of this, especially in medicine, is safety.
Completely. We can now produce therapeutic proteins that are identical to human proteins. This eliminates the risk of those adverse immunological responses. The classic example is, of course, genetically engineered insulin.
Let's talk about that. The traditional method, that was a problem.
A huge problem. They were extracting insulin from slaughtered cattle and pigs. And that animal-derived protein often caused severe allergies in patients.
But the recombinant solution bypasses this. Human insulin is made of two polypeptide chains.
The A and B chains, linked by disulfide bridges.
And what's so fascinating about the genetic solution is that we don't just reproduce the final product, we replicate the natural synthesis.
They replicate the process. In the body, insulin starts as an inactive prohormone with an extra connecting peptide. Genetic engineering bypasses that prohormone stage completely. It produces the A and B chains separately in bacteria, like E. coli. These chains are then chemically combined in the lab to form mature human insulin.
Solving both the supply and the allergy problem at the same time.
In one go.
And that capability isn't just limited to medicine. In agriculture, the success story of beet cotton. I mean, that fundamentally changed how we approach pest management.
Oh, absolutely. The genius of beet cotton is in the source and the mechanism. The toxic protein comes from a bacterium, Bacillus thuringiensis.
Right, the beet cotton.
Exactly. And crucially, the bacteria produce it as an inactive substance, a protoxin.
Oh, it's safe at first.
It's completely safe. It only becomes active when an insect eats it, because the toxin needs the highly alkaline pH of the insect gut to convert into its lethal form.
So it's harmless to the cotton plant itself and harmless to mammals.
Right. And that reduces our reliance on those broad-spectrum chemical pesticides.
Of course, this incredible power to edit life, it has to have governance. For a learner focused on policy, the regulatory structure is vital. Who in India is the gatekeeper for this?
That responsibility falls to the GEAC, the Genetic Engineering Approval Committee.
Yeah.
This body, set up by the Indian government, evaluates the safety, the efficacy, and the environmental implications of any GM research before it can be introduced into the ecosystem or the marketplace.
It's the necessary ethical and scientific safeguard.
It has to be.
Which leads us to an equally critical governance issue, biopiracy. This term comes up a lot in policy papers. What's the working definition?
Biopiracy is the unethical and, illegal use of bioresources and traditional knowledge by multinational companies or other organizations without proper authorization.
And specifically without paying for it.
Specifically without compensatory payment to the country or the people who developed that knowledge. This isn't abstract theft. It's an intellectual property crisis.
And it undermines the economic sovereignty of nations rich in biodiversity.
It does. The attempts to patent basmati rice are the perfect illustration.
Right. Basmati is a traditional variety cultivated by Indian farmers for centuries.
For centuries. Yet, a company patented a new variety by simply crossing a domestic basmati strain with a semi-dwarf variety and then claiming novelty.
It just highlights this stark global contrast.
It really does. Industrialized nations, they may be financially rich, but they are often poor in biodiversity and traditional knowledge. Developing nations like India are rich in both.
So vigilance against biopiracy is a key foreign policy and economic imperative.
To ensure the originators of this knowledge actually benefit from their legacy.
Okay, shifting gears now. Let's focus on environment and conservation. We need to connect these scientific facts directly to sustainability and governance challenges in India.
And the fight against pollution, it relies heavily on knowing precisely which agents cause the most harm.
So what's the biggest culprit?
The Central Pollution Control Board, the CPCB, has explicitly identified PM 2.5, that's particulate matter 2.5 micrometers or less, as the most damaging pollutant.
And why is that?
Because these particles are so incredibly fine, they can be inhaled deep into the lungs, they cause immediate irritation, chronic damage, and contribute significantly to premature deaths.
The governance response to this has created some milestones. The Supreme Court directing Delhi's entire public transport fleet to switch to CNG by the end of 2002.
A landmark decision.
What was the policy insight behind mandating compressed natural gas?
Well, a few things. CNG burns most efficiently, so it minimizes residual pollutants. It's also cheaper than diesel. But the primary policy benefit, especially in a regulatory context, is that CNG cannot be easily adulterated.
That closes a major loophole for cheating emission standards.
Drastically. And then we have other critical automobile norms, like mandating catalytic converters.
Which use those expensive metals, platinum, palladium, and rhodium.
They do. And the rule here is crucial. You must use unleaded petrol because lead compounds will irreversibly inactivate the catalyst.
And all this led to the nationwide implementation of
Bharat Stage 4 norms back in April 2017.
Okay, moving from the air to the water. Pollution there can be mapped through clear biological indicators. When raw sewage is discharged, we see a sharp decline in weight.
Dissolved oxygen, or DO.
Right, and why is that?
Because the microorganisms feeding on that massive influx of organic waste, they use up the oxygen very, very quickly. And that's reflected in a sharp increase in what's called biochemical oxygen demand, or BOD.
So higher BOD means more polluted water.
Exactly. The higher the BOD, the worse the pollution and clearer the policy failure. The depletion of DO then causes fish mortality, which is the most visible ecological consequence.
And if that nutrient-rich pollution continues, we get eutrophication.
Right. Eutrophication is the natural aging of a lake, but when human pollutants accelerate this aging process dramatically, we call it cultural or accelerated eutrophication.
This is what leads to those huge algal blooms.
Yes, algal blooms. And famously, the invasive growth of plants like the water hyacinth, often called the terror of Bengal.
But not all environmental stories are cautionary tales. In waste management, I love the ingenuity of the polyblend case study in Bangalore.
Ahmed Khan's innovation, yeah.
A great story.
What was the real insight there?
The real success was pairing simple chemistry with a really pragmatic application. His company created Polyblend, which is a fine powder made from recycled modified plastic waste.
And they mixed this with bitumen for roads.
They did. And when mixed with bitumen, Polyblend dramatically enhanced the bitumen's water repellency. This helped increase road life by a factor of 3.
That's incredible.
The insight for governance is that effective waste management often involves finding these localized, scalable solutions that turn waste into a valuable resource. It bypasses the regulatory hurdles of huge, centralized projects.
Finally, we have to acknowledge that effective conservation needs more than just government mandates. It needs community buy-in.
It absolutely does. Deforestation, which is made worse by things like geom cultivation, the slash-and-burn agriculture in the northeastern states, remains a huge challenge. But history offers these profound lessons in community resilience.
You simply cannot discuss conservation in India without mentioning the extraordinary courage of the Bishnoi community in Rajasthan in 1731.
Led by Amrita Devi.
Led by Amrita Devi, hundreds of people sacrificed their lives to physically protect trees from being cut down by the king's men. That deep-seated commitment led directly to the Amrita Devi Bishnoi Wildlife Protection Award.
And that spirit was echoed in the Chipko movement.
In the Garhwal Himalayas, 1974, local women protecting their forests by, literally hugging the trees. It's a powerful testament to the idea that conservation is fundamentally rooted in deep cultural values and local action.
So what does this all mean? We've traveled from the molecular memory of the immune system to the ethical frameworks governing genetic manipulation, and finally to public policy responses to environmental crises in India. The common thread, it seems clear, understanding these core biological facts, is the precursor to crafting sound policy and effective governance.
These aren't just facts to be memorized. They are tools for critical analysis.
Right.
And this raises an important question. We know that human activities are increasing the rate of species extinction by, 100 to 1,000 times compared to historical mass extinction events?
A frightening scale.
A very frightening scale. So, given that, and drawing inspiration from the dedication and localized action shown by the Bishnoi and the Chipko movement, what small, sustainable change, rooted in biological awareness, can you implement or advocate for today to mitigate the loss of biodiversity in your own immediate environment?
That is the ultimate test of applied knowledge. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into these critical science and policy intersections.
We truly hope this material supports your journey toward becoming well-informed.
And if you found value in this analysis and breakdown, please consider joining our community. You can subscribe on the Simplified UPSC by PPP YouTube channel.
Your paid membership, if you are able to join, helps fund these detailed deep dives and allows us to keep producing the super useful content.
It really does. And a quick like and a comment also goes a long, long way. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.
Thanks for watching. Follow us on Telegram and Instagram. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.